Well, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, kind folks out there, community and creatives. Thank you for joining me at, Zero Dark 30 here in the States. It's RPG with DBJ, and we are still continuing a week's worth of talking about, psionics. And it's funny because let me do a little ramble before we even get into this. We just started poking around in the chat, talking about what time it is and such. And like Alex Cease, it's 3 a.m. It's crazy. I know it's a god awful time that I do these live streams, but just life in general just gets in the way, and this is the only time I can do them. So I'm glad it helps some people out. Maybe some of you guys are just getting off work. If you have one of those mid-afternoon, late night type of jobs or something, you're getting off at midnight or something, 3 a.m, it's crazy. But yeah, some of us are diehards, or I don't know, maybe bored or too much iron in our diet. You need to see me so you can get the bowels loosened up. 1 a.m. Wow. Now out of the States, you know, across the pond, oh, it's much better. Which actually makes it pretty good, because normally, if our waking hours here in the States means that it's always late, across the pond to the east of us. So, Jenny, I quit my job. Oh man, don't do that. Okay, but we do have a point here, and we're going to get into something because I've been thinking about it and I don't have any answers. So we're going to go into it. So all week we've been talking about psionics, mental abilities, telekinesis, telepathy. And today on Third Pillar Thursday, we want to talk about the third pillar. The third pillar of gaming, of course, is exploration, the environment. I didn't make up the term. 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons established the 3 pillars of gaming as combat, social interaction, and exploration. And my definition of exploration isn't just looking in the corners and finding treasure, or like hidden maps or secret doors and such, but it's using the environment as a dynamic element in the game, having complications when it comes to natural environments like floods and earthquakes and frozen lakes and all that kind of stuff, and as well as having those same dynamic environments while you're having a fight. So maybe fighting enemies in thick fog, or a mudslide, or on the side of a building, or cliff sides, or underwater, or in the deck of a ship as being tossed by a severe storm or something. So now we have to go into psionic environments. Like, how do we adjust for that? So psychoportation is good for travel. Well, let me just say that in many ways that's where I was headed. Okay, so imagine ourselves in a world where one example would be a world where the people aren't psionic, but the things around them are affected by the thoughts and emotions, the conscious and or subconscious thoughts of the people that exist there. Whether this means you travel to another plane of existence that's so strange and chaotic that whatever you think, it happens or moves. Whether you go to a place that seems idyllic, but your own nightmares come true, or maybe a location has been designed by great mental masters, and you're just a poor explorer who has come and been able to shift things around. Also, like Vincent says, I say it before, does anyone else, as I said before, psionic crystals as environment, meaning like there might be monoliths, crystals, I don't know, things put in doorways, natural growths underground, things that react to and create an environment created by the mind. Now, there's a long video we did on illusions and how you can use illusions in the game. So I'm just going to dive on that just a little bit in terms of illusions could affect what people see, and I think deciding how those illusions affect everyone could be a major part. For example, is the illusion projected into each person's mind so that it's not a hologram where everyone sees the same image, but each individual sees something different, or sees something and, for example, there's a pit trap in front of them and they see a big pit in the cliff, but everyone else does not see it. And what happens if you fail or make any ability to resist it? If you resist it, is it like an overlay, like a translucent image that you can see through, so you know it's an illusion, but you still see what the illusion is, or do you not see it at all? Same thing with like illusionary creatures or something. If it's a hologram, is the hologram very realistic, and you walk through it, and then all of a sudden you're standing on, like walking through a curtain, you can look backwards and see what the illusion used to look like, but you see what the reality is? Or does it disperse the minute you touch it? If you disbelieve it, can you kind of see through it like a gossamer, ephemeral kind of effect, or does it disappear out of your sight? So those are things you can think about. But using the idea of RP says, hey guys, things would appear different depending on people's experience and memory of the object. So follow me here, a strange thing would be for, say, an environment to be, instead of it being illusionary, maybe it's real based on the perceptions of those that are around it. So for example, you go into a location and one of your greatest fears is created, and you could just Google like top 10 greatest fears, whether it's like public speaking. We talked about this before, where death isn't really number one. Like public speaking is above death on people's top fears, but it's like spiders, snakes, falling, being buried alive, being burned alive, drowning, those kind of things. And it could be absolutely real for the person who is affected by it, but the people around them are not. And maybe the only physical evidence, for example, let's say someone is drowning, that you see them coughing up water because they feel like they're floundering in this great ocean or something, but you're standing next to them and all you see is them just getting moist and spitting up water out of their lungs. Whereas you might be attacked by a spider. No one else can see the spider, but you're getting bit, and people see wounds appearing on you, and maybe there's like a poison coming out of the wounds, and cocoon is webs being spun around you to put you into a cocoon, but no one else sees that. They just see you being trapped or something. Alex says, C says something like Mirage Arcana. The area looks and feels real. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Vincent says even mental realms or dream realms. Vince also says having crystal caves or crystal buildings could be psionic. At least in D&D, crystals are very psionic. And yeah, so one idea would be just to have, like, things are reactive to people's subconscious, and so the environment will shift or change based on their thoughts. RP says maybe RP Gamer says maybe natural disasters like earthquakes occur when multiple people having conflicting ideas of what the area looks like and the environment can't cope, which could be true. Like maybe this world is it's like in Elysium, it's like a heaven, it's a nirvana, but when people involve themselves in it, you start having terrible storms, and it turns dark, and there's earthquakes and things. Maybe because ourselves, we have conflict within ourselves, and so it starts reflecting into the environment. So slight plug, we will be releasing an adventure key every D6 and D20th of the month, we release an adventure key, which is basically like, it's an adventure key, unlock your imagination. Anyway, they're small 3 to 4 page adventures. And we have things like trappings and threats and environments and NPCs and enemies. And there's like 3 options, basically 3 to 5 options, and you can pick and choose so you can use them over and over again. I say this because we have one called The Two Brothers, and in it there's an environment that cannot be overcome by using your strength or athletics to get out of the way, or using your dexterity to dodge out of the way as the rock crumbles around you. It's basically the area is so big, it's like it stretches for miles, but you can get out of it by making a charisma save, by using your force of personality to convince the spirits in the area to not have harm on you. So it's possible that there could be things like great storms or earthquakes or lightning strikes or flame coming from the sky or like, acid bursts from the ground. It could be this terrible area. And the only way to survive this extremely deadly area is not, you can't physically survive it. You can't dodge it. You can't really figure it out. You're going to have to mentally steady yourself. And if you mentally steady yourself, the environment around you steadies out. So it could be very chaotic and dangerous, but somebody or multiple people have to remain calm and believe. It's almost like a belief system where you're using your intelligence or wisdom or whatever it is in your game, knowledge or instincts or something. The calmer you are, the calmer the area stays around you. And so as you walk, maybe there's like a 30-meter zone around you that's calm, and then there's nothing but chaos and death, this big miasma of a dream world that goes on around you that doesn't affect you. This may not even be dependent on whether you're psionic. Maybe the area around you is psionic. Alex says greedy, selfish people destroys the environment. So yeah, it could be like the 7 deadly sins kind of thing, where before your players get there, you're like, okay, one of these deadly sins, even if your character's a good guy, like one of these is, which one would your character most likely fall into? Like which one is pushing up against their moral standards, let's say, or their personality, the thing that pushes against them, their darkness. And so they pick one, and then based on that, maybe out of those examples of 7 deadly sins, that's what the environment becomes, whether it's like selfishness or gluttony or vengeance or something like jealousy or something like that. Yeah, that'd be really strange and dark, kind of like Dante's Inferno-ish, I can imagine. Vince says, how about something like another environment, like an ice cave that's only stable when a psionic is asleep, and then every loud noise like combat or casting spells shakes the whole area? Yeah, that's a possibility too, where like your peace keeps things peaceful, and then the chaos of moving fast, of panic or physical activity like fighting, jumping, running, yelling, having an argument, having a physical altercation is the thing that starts to, like, your small behavior has grand effects for maybe miles around you. Especially if you're in a world, if it's all crystal and glass like, and it's all sensitive and stuff, like a human being inside of walking around the interior of like snowflakes, and the minute you say something, things just start to shatter around you. That'd be pretty nasty. RP says, imagine entering an area, coming across a diamond mine simply because you see it there. And that would be kind of strange too. Like your expectations of what you think you're going to find, you actually find in this place, whether it's the spirit or actual physical presence of a loved one, or hey, I was looking for this treasure, and then all of a sudden, the flaming Vorpal +5 Holy Avenger is sitting there stuck in a stone, and you're just like, what? Alex C says, all hell broke loose, literally the ripple effect or butterfly effect. Many There are many ways we can play with a psionic environment, especially if you want to, like, I'll just make an example. Like, let's say you're running a game and you have them in a winter environment, and it could be, just creatively, you're just stuck for ideas. You're like, okay, I had a blizzard, all right, I had thick snow, I used cold, I had them cross a frozen lake or river or something, but I don't know what else to do. Like, I don't know, maybe snow's covering like pit traps or something. You're like, but in a psionic, a mentally disruptive environment, you don't have, you may not even have to have a reason for one thing to lead to another. You can go from wild wilderness to inside of a building. You can go from, you could change gravity. You can have the PCs walk on the walls. You can have them go from salt flats that stretch for 200 miles, and then they instantly walk into a world that's nothing but a city, a continent-sized building, and everyone lives inside of this dilapidated old mansion or like castle or something. And there's a sky, but if you get to the top pinnacles, it's like Ravnica, where the entire place is a city or something. And then from there, they may lead to a deep ocean or what have you. It could be very strange. Also, kind of how I hinted before, it could be that to get out of these situations where, it seems like instant death. You're walking along solid land and you step off and you're falling through the clouds and you're 15 miles above solid ground. It could be that you just have to, the only way to survive is to mentally steady yourself and maybe you have to latch onto something that is personal for your character, a place of safety, maybe a place where you grew up, a natural grove of trees and a fruit tree and used to hang out with your friends when you were younger, or a young noble that was being trained by a mentor and used to hang out in the gardens or something. And so you have to latch on to that, because if you don't, these other horrible things could happen to you around there. Alex C says certain areas have ice shards maybe jutting out of the ground in the tundra in unusual formations. Yeah, Sometimes we all get stuck for an idea and we're just like, oh, dislodge, come on, I can't believe I don't have any creativity, or you just get a brain fart and just like, man, I have nothing. Vincent says you could also have certain areas that simply block specific emotions or thoughts. So there could be an area where you cannot be aggressive, like being like fight or being angry, and others, everything is funny. So yeah, that could be true. Like there's I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was in Planescape. I believe certain planes you went to, that plane like was overpowering, just because the outer planes were the epitome of specific alignments. So like lawful neutral had a lot of order, and chaotic evil was something different, and neutral good was something different. And certain places you could not lie or have aggression or draw your sword to have a fight. It could be that wherever you go, those emotions are so powerful that it forces you to be this way. So you could have a pit fiend shows up with his entourage of 17 devils or whatever, and you're about to fight, but you step into this area and no one can confront each other. You can't be angry. You're just, there is no aggression in you unless you leave the area. And it could be extremely difficult to push against that, or there might even be like psychic backlash for having those thoughts in the first place. The natural environment becomes twisted. Alex C says, RP gamers, imagine describing to your players that you're in a desert, then they take a step and find themselves in a stairwell. Yep. Or a labyrinth that can only be solved while being in a specific emotion. So maybe anger or vengeance or jealousy, you're stuck in this eternal labyrinth that you just can't get out of. But if you just steady yourself, maybe you think of something peaceful, or a past pleasant thought, or the desire to help someone out else, or what have you, and then you naturally you find your way out, almost like the loop, use the force kind of thing, where, you know what, I'm just going to trust my emotions, calm down, put my sword away, and get the hell out of there. Yeah, the environment changes as your emotions change, making things confusing. Maybe different areas are based on different emotions. Maybe the area of vengeance is this eternal battle. Every time someone dies, you don't need to make healing rolls or death saves. You die and get back up. It's Valhalla. It's the eternal battle. Everyone dies. You get back up again and go at it again and again and again. And maybe there's just no way for you to stop fighting. It could be like mentally you're in a realm where, nope, you have to attack again, and you're like, no, I don't want to fight. I get it. I want to get out of here. And like, nope, make a save. Sorry, you're going to have to attack again. And it could just be this just fighting over and over again, and dead bodies are all around, and guts are spilled out, and the PC's intestines are being ripped out as they're stabbing someone else in the eye, and then everyone falls over and get back up, and they do the whole thing all over again. Yeah, my group of murder hobos could never. That's what Janny says. Vincent says, how about semi-intelligent crystals as part of the battlefield, which charge up psionic effects in regular intervals and levitate everything around them, or heat them up, or until they're shattered? Oh, that's a good way to have like external psionic things building up. So instead of internally characters having psionic powers, which if you have a psionicist in the group, maybe this is something that they've known about or been told about. They've learned about this in their studies or whatever, or picked this up through meditation. It was given to them as a vision. But let's say there's psionic crystals, and the crystals, the local people know that they're charged by thoughts. And when the crystals are charged by the psychic energy around them, they do things like have telekinetic pushes, or like pyrokinetic effects where it lights you on fire or sends out bolts of electricity, or mind wipes you. It starts draining your very deep emotions, or makes you have nightmare dreams or something. Maybe brings those nightmares into reality around you, or randomly starts lifting things up in the air, and you're the fighter, and you're just like, I can't get down, until it the temporary effects leave, or maybe the enemy starts doing things, and you have to convince the enemy to stop fighting, because the psychic energy keeps building, and stronger, like electric fields just start building and striking people down randomly. And you're just like, no, we've got to stop because we're causing our own harm. And the enemy's like blaming you, like you're the one doing it. And everyone's getting frustrated and stuff. Yeah, Alex C says, more frustrated you are, the more chaotic. So far, psionic traps and environmental puzzles. Or he says, Vince says, or how about sonic crystals, which force you to stay near them with suggestions so they can feed on your thoughts? Yeah, or the most insidious one of all. Hey, why don't you just go to sleep for a while and just have a little rest? And then you fall asleep and just can never wake up. Or right, they maybe the PC see tons of skeletons, skeletal bones piling around these crystals, and it's because you get drawn into it. Maybe it puts you into a dream realm of your greatest desires, and these crystals draw you in because that greatest desire just wants you to stay there. And then while you're staying there, it's just draining you little by little until you just forget who you are, why you were there. Yeah, not just your thoughts, but eating away at your mental stats as well. Yeah, your intelligence, you become confused. You don't remember what you're doing any longer. And that could be represented by losses of, using 5th edition, of course, losses of intelligence or wisdom. In other games, loss of like knowledge or instincts, or any other mental faculties thereof. And that could be represented by diminished statistics and eventually this world will just steal everything from you, living off of your memories. And it could be that the way to get out of it, or it could be a hint, is that if you mentally go into the crystals, the PCs maybe find memories of other people, and so they may have to do battle or uncover something or free someone, because now you're stuck in their old memories. Thinking of an old movie that I think was well made. Maybe the movie's quality wasn't the best, but an old Jennifer Lopez movie called The Cell was a great dreamscape style movie, as well as a Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come. Very depressing, but extremely well done. That movie was like award winning to me as far as how it was constructed. But that's a really great way to make like a dream realm or something. Yeah, constantly making saves. Imagine finding a group of sleeping orcs in a cave near some crystals and they just don't wake up. What would your PCs do? Now, of course, there would be some murder hobos that might kill them, but imagine if you kill them and you have to take their place. But you could go into this crystal to kind of quote unquote save them or pull them out of this lattice of dreams or nightmares or something. Vince says, oh, how about psionic zombies? Simply normal beings that had all their thoughts drained, and now they only have their most basic instincts, like a feeling left. Yeah, I once did a one shot with modern day Cthulhu. Like Cthulhu woke up in a modern day, and they were called lobots. They were like lobotomized, and it could be that they're like psionic zombies. Could be. They're not undead. They just don't feel any pain, right? They're normal human beings that don't feel pain. And maybe they're trying to, they're trying so deeply to escape the horror that they're in, that they're trying to attack you, to draw you into their horror, and maybe being touched by them instead of like a disease. They're not breathing something on you, or they're not biting your skin and sending a disease. Maybe it's psionic. Like when they grab you, you just put into this nightmare realm, and outwardly you begin turning into one of them, but inwardly you're still fighting. Like you're still trying to get out of it. And it could be that the killing the zombies may not be a good thing either, because they're just innocent people. Although they're zombies, you got to kill them anyway. But my point being is that maybe the PCs find out, hey, we have to save them because they're all trapped, and we might have to go into a nightmare realm to get them out. Yeah, the closer you get to the crystals, the harder the saves. Absolutely. Maybe it's like this catch-22, right? You get closer, it's hard to resist, but that might be the way to save, to pull yourself out, or to cure it, or to stop its effects. But the further away you are, the easier it is. But and like I mentioned in earlier this week, maybe your physical stats, your strength, dex, con, are instead replaced by your intelligence, wisdom, charisma, as being able to fight or maneuver into the psionic realm as opposed to like the physical realm. RP Gamer says maybe the crystals feed on your fears and guilt, and to break free, you have to let go of the guilt or conquer your fear. Yeah, it could be you're guilty about something. I don't want to go so far as to say this could cure PTSD, but it could be the PC. Maybe the PC has some unresolved issue with in the past, maybe with a family member or one of the party members, or they committed some horrible incident in the past, the killing of the orc babies and orc pregnant women, and they haven't really been able to talk to anybody about it. But now they're confronted by those horrors, and they have to atone for it, like forgive themselves internally, or at least make amends for it, or try to understand what maybe they don't even remember the damage that they've done to themselves, and they're like, why am I so stressed out? Why am I this person? And that's a really good way if you're someone who wants to delve into like introspection in your role playing, which isn't for everyone, but if you really want to do something like that, this is a good excuse to have players do the soliloquy, do the personal journey or something, especially if you want to include the other PCs. So maybe there's this nightmare / dream realm or introspection realm where each PC has their own way to fight through it, and their allies help them work their way through it. Yeah, you could have a fight of astral projections of your own fears. So what Vincent says, yeah. So your own fears could be like, let's say, physically, you're the fighter, you're the warriors, you pull your weapons, you want to fight something, but instead, that coming maybe from the crystals or out of the walls or maybe in this environment, the astral projection of your fears, whether it's a flaming demon, whether it's being trapped in darkness and being surrounded by something you can't see, being swallowed whole, or like I said, drowning or falling, or even the public speaking, etc. You're in fact attacked by it astrally, and it could be that you're the only one that sees it, or maybe one by one, everyone's fears start coming out of the woodworks like a horde, and they keep gaining new, stronger traits until you essentially defeat your fears, not physically, even though you're fighting them physically, but mentally. So, for example, if one player is afraid of drowning, maybe this creature comes out, and maybe someone else is scared of spiders. So the spider creature comes out, and when it poisons you, the poison makes you start to drown. Like it's a combination of each one. And as each person fights their fear, that creature, excuse me, where'd that come from? Loses that ability or something. I don't know. All kind of thing. Survivor's guilt sucks. Yeah. Survivor's guilt is another thing where maybe this is strange, but a great way to relive a past battle. Maybe there was a battle and two of the PCs died and one lived, and it was almost a TPK. And then you go into the cave, and now it's like reliving the exact same thing over and over again, but now you're able to make different choices. Maybe sacrificing yourself. I'm going to get a little drink here. Really sorry. Try to get rid of that hiccup, which I haven't had hiccups in, I don't know, it feels like a year or more. Oh wow, you could go the Ghostbusters route, where they are asked to choose the form of their enemy. Ooh, yeah. A classic cursed / trap magic item back in second edition was the mirror of opposition, where once you looked at the mirror, the exact opposite of your PC steps out of the mirror and does battle with you. Great way to stick it to those players who are like, my character's not overpowered, and then they have to fight themselves after that their themselves starts dealing out 200 hit points of damage, because they do the same thing. Yeah, you could go the Ghostbusters route, or RP says, and you're stuck fighting a giant beanie baby. It's so silly. And it's like, yeah, why, Ray? No. Janny says in a Vagrant story, you have a dead and haunted city that gives random weird abilities to those who enter. Yeah, it could be a city of ghosts, or city of, like, there's something strange in the city, and when you walk around the city, maybe the people avoid eye contact, and no one's allowed to leave, like the old movie like Dark City, where when you awaken, the city changes or it shifts. Streets change. If you go down an alley, you come back out the alley, it's not the same exit. Stairs and doorways appear, disappear. You can open up a door, go into a business, and when you close the door, it's gone. A small storefront looks one way, but you walk inside, it's this huge palace on the inside. When you leave there, the door exits behind. I mean, when you leave the exit, it's an abandoned building behind you. Yeah, that could be very strange, where the people are able to live here because they've just put in their mind, okay, keep your head down, do these normal things, and as long as you stay in your certain regiment, it stays the same. But the minute strangers start coming into town, things get really strange. How about Vince says, how about having some environmental riddles with sonic crystals that push or pull you when having specific thoughts, so you could jump high distances or get up to tunnels? Oh, wow. Like almost like being in the area grants to you psionic abilities, or enhances what you can do, or unlocks something temporarily. A million and one classic puzzle style video games do this very, very well. Like Zelda, Portal, um oh, what's that worm game where the worm becomes the superhero, or the hero of the show. Anyway, there's a ton of puzzle games where you have to climb, jump, move blocks to get to a certain area. And so it could be that you have to mentally actuate these things, so that maybe there's a 5-ton boulder in the way, but the only way to move it is 3 or more people have to concentrate to use their mind to move the boulder. And it takes more mental thought than a little bit. A Rubik's Cube type thing where you have to figure out the puzzle, or pass through a wall, or get to a high area. Sonic Groundhog Day. Ooh, the same situation keeps repeating over and over again. Yeah, until you learn your lesson. The Tree Cave on Dagobah, Tesla Ranger, perfect thing. The Tree Cave on Dagobah, where you go inside and you fight against an enemy that is extremely personal to you. And remember, that Tree Cave wasn't a physical fight; it was a mental fight. So the ranger, the barbarian, your physical characters go down in there, but instead they've got to use their mental stats to fight off something that is very dear to them. Maybe give them a glimpse of what's going to happen in the future. Alex C says, need to look up the Mirror of Opposition. Yeah, the Mirror of Opposition was one of those Gygaxian things, right? Where it's like, I don't want to say it was a complete FU, but in many ways it was. Vincent says, having something like the gels from Portal, Psionic flavor. Why is it you know everything I'm thinking about? Earthworm Jim is the video game I was talking about, where it had puzzles. You had Earthworm had to pull his wormy head out and snag the line and swing somewhere and stuff, or use his worm body to make like propellers and stuff. It was really silly. Yeah, Dead Man says the same thing. Earthworm Jim. Yeah, the right answer. Alexi says right answer gives you boons. Wrong answer penalizes you. So yeah, this might be a good way to have classic puzzles. The walk on all fours. In the middle, you walk on twos, and in the end, you walk on 3 puzzle, where it's like you're a baby, you're a grown person, you're elderly. You could have those puzzles like overlaid like psychically in people's brains as they're going through this adventure. And as they answer each puzzle, they get some kind of boon, whether it's like a psychic shield that is able to block the enemies that keep pouring out of a portal, or telepathic ability to communicate with their allies when this like scream just starts going out in the tunnels and they can't hear each other, but if they get telepathy, they can communicate, and this might help them exit or escape or something. Earthworm Jimmy, hero for all time. Yeah, thanks, God. Jeez, I'm Neil. I'm hosting the show, and I'm the guy who knows nothing. Anyway, Quantum Conundrum is really neat, where you can switch to different dimensions, where some things are really heavy or light, or time goes slow for everything but you. So yeah, I hadn't thought about the idea of shifting the fundamentals of reality. So whether it's time moving slowly, gravity, maybe passing through different objects, it's possible that your physical, what you do causes something different. So if you strike something physically, instead of it causing, like you hit something with a sword, it doesn't slash through it, but instead it's like it could be a static charge, or maybe every person passes through every other person. You just can't touch each other, but mentally you can touch each other. You know, you can like strike out at someone, or maybe when you get there, like gravity is so heavy, you all your belongings just drop to the ground, and you have to like resist against like a strength of 20. It's like you're being grappled. The entire realm is being grappled by a strength of 20. You have to do like a contest of strength to just move, to pick up your weapon or cast a spell or even stand up because everyone's knocked prone or something. Yeah, all you need to do is knock a fishbowl off the table. Bam! Just hey, kitty, come on. Maybe the inhabitants of an area take something to dampen their emotions, simply to stop the environment from changing constantly, like prosium in the movie Equilibrium. Everyone has to stop and take a specific herb or drug, or breathe something in, or swallow a plant-like thing, or some hag or something creates a paste or a powder that everyone adds to their food, or a pill or something, a potion that you drink, and it dampens your emotions. Because if you leave the area, it could be like little what's multiple of oasis? I guess the multiple of oasis is oasis, oases. Anyway, there could be these little islands of calmness in this world, where if you step out of it, you're being struck by lightning and attacked by waves and hit by heat waves in the desert. Every round, maybe the environment completely shifts from blizzard to lakes of acid to swamps or something, until you get to this other oasis of calm, and the people there know, relax, take it easy, drink this potion or what have you, and it'll keep you calm. Quantum Conundrum maybe has levels where you can fly by jumping on an object and shifting gravity in a way so it pushes you up, and when you get too high, you fall again, so you wobble forward or up and down. Maybe like a zero gravity place where there's little like rocks or asteroids or islands of activity, and you can just push off and leap into the air. You know, the classic floating castle is a big deal in fantasy, especially you know, you look up floating castles and Google image that, and there's no limit to them. So maybe in this world, it's not just that you have to find a flying mount or flying carpet, but maybe you can just, the world has shattered and you can just literally push off of one thing and float over to something else. And the speed at which you move might be a mental speed. So a person with a higher intelligence or wisdom has a better ability to maneuver versus someone with a lower intelligence or wisdom, using, of course, 5th edition, but using other mental stats. You know, if you have a high, I don't know, ego or instincts or investigation ability, that you can maneuver around this area almost like built-in flight. And then, but if you have a low stat, you have a harder time maneuvering. Yeah, RP says a twist on the controlling the nation approach of using pills. Yeah, because normally we think of the dampen the emotion thing is like, this is oppressive government. They've convinced everybody if you don't take this, it saves everyone. But it could be that in order to save their own lives, you know, their own society, they have to take these pills. And only maybe the greatest warriors can operate in this world, so they decide not to take the pills, or not to, I don't know, remove the amulets they wear or something, to dive into this chaos. Yeah, Vince says, or simply the weather depends on your own thoughts, and if you think normally, such switching thoughts and emotions all the time, the weather gets really dangerous and chaotic. And that could be a great way to, like, hey, I've got these great weather effects I want to use, but I haven't used them in a while. Guess what? It's coming after you if you don't calm down. Maybe things like color blindness and other things that change how people see things are forms of passive psionics. Memory loss, color blindness, sense of touch, maybe, or what is it? Synthesasia? I know I'm butchering the word. It's the people whose perceptions come in different forms. So they smell colors, they can feel sounds, their senses pick up things in different ways. When they see a color, they have they can feel a different temperature, and so it could be that your perceptions of things, if you taste something, you may hear certain sounds. Yeah, it could be strange like that. Vincent says charisma equals strength, wisdom equals constitution, intelligence equals dexterity. Yeah, I mean, you're fine, dude. I got it. Yeah, you could have those parity of skills. So mentally, you have to use your mental skills to maneuver in this astral realm instead of physically until you get through it, or you crack the crystal, or you solve the conundrum, or you get to these little islands of out of the chaos into the physical realm again, because you're stuck in the dream realm where you keep flowing between your physical body and your dream body or something. Alexi says, I have an environment like that in my homebrew. The Shunderlands, floating earths and reminiscent of floating ruins with lightning and occasionally gravity wells. Awesome. Prue says, synthesasia. It's okay. Tesla spells it out. Synesthesia. Synesthesia is probably it. The production of a sense of impression relating to one sense or part of the body by stimulation of another sense or part of the body. So when someone is touched, they may smell something, or when someone hears something, instead they have a certain scent, which could be really strange. Infinite role plays is shite. I was awake early enough, but my brain just reminded me that you go live this friggin' early. Is it shite? I will have shat. Anyway, so yeah, psionic. I mean, just now from you guys, man, just how do we combine psionics and the environment? I think these are all anyone who sees this, these are all excellent things to steal these ideas, man. The girl from Alphas, yeah, the show we mentioned the other day, where maybe it wasn't the best execution, but Alphas was a great show about people who are the upper exceptions or upper limits of what humans can do. And that girl she could enhance any one of her senses, but when she enhanced that one sense, her other senses went dead, and she was trying to learn how to do it. So if she enhanced her vision, she couldn't smell or see or hear anything, and et cetera, et cetera. So if she used her sense of touch, she could read like newspaper print or whatever, read a book with like Braille with her fingertips, feel if someone's heart is beating or whatever, but then she couldn't hear anything. So people had to look out for her. Infinite says, I've been working with Sonics for Saturday morning tabletop. Synthesasia is one of the power sets. Yeah. Vincent says, imagine having environments where senses are switched, where you taste with your skin or see with your sounds. And, imagine trying to navigate that way. That would be really bizarre. I mean, because now you're trying to have a physical confrontation with the trolls that come out of the woodwork. And you're like, I'm going to swing my sword at it. And you're going, okay, you're going to have to use your sense of smell to do that. You're like, oh, that's right. Because, okay, I have to see it, but what I'm seeing, I hear, and then my sense of touch is my smell. And yeah, Infinite says, imagine a sound puzzle that actually requires you to dance. It could be, and Vince mentioned this earlier about having like psychic crystals where you have a psychic puzzle, a psionic puzzle you have to figure out. And it could be anything from dance, motion, it could be staying still, it could be how do I say, having like a certain type of synergy with your allies. So for example, one of your allies is going through feeling a certain type of guilt, and if you step forward and solve their guilt, and then they step forward to help someone else solve their problem, it could be that each person is bringing their own troubles, and if you help solve each other person's troubles, you can get out of the situation. Or like I said before, use actual puzzles. Physical puzzles like those little chain link things you can buy at the brain stores, or the wood blocks that have to fit together. But instead they're like giant size puzzles that you actually have to, the PCs have to mentally maneuver into certain spaces, or physically maneuver. Or imagine, this is strange. Imagine Dance Revolution. Silly. Imagine if any, remember, have any of you seen the Doctor Strange movie, where Doctor Strange falls into his own eyeball, and then when he falls into his own eyeball, the center of his eyeball is like a black hole. So you could go into a psychic realm where you as a PC fall into your own brain, and you fall into this weird chaos that is your own self, and you have to do battle inside of your own brain against your own horrors or your own desires, even battling yourself until you can get out. Yeah. Entering an ancient dwarven temple where giant stones have to be maneuvered into a specific area to unlock it, and doing so requires both physical force, maybe extreme sensitivity to move them in a certain way, and then great intelligence to figure out how the geometric Tetris blocks fit together in the first place. Vince says he actually was projected into different dimensions. They used imagery from past comics to show other dimensions. Exactly, and right, because what was the artists that used to do a lot of those things always had like the Dali style paintings where it was like, the clocks dripping over stuff, and Doctor Strange would attack, and that was their way of using, hey, I'm going to show you what the quote unquote real world looks like by going through different dimensions, like the dimensions where there were nothing but hands grabbing at his body and then he fell through. And those different dimensions could be, I consider them to be psionic. They're mental. They can drive you mentally mad. Infinite says, how about a synthetic hive mind or virus? A viral infection that not only flips the senses, but switches senses between the yeah, it could be you, the PCs are the thing that's needed, this intelligence to think normally again, because it's become so nightmarish and powerful and chaotic. And so everyone has to work together to to change the way it's feeling. And imagine the PCs now are seeing through other PCs' eyes. So the fighter is looking through the wizard's eyes, and the cleric's looking through the thief's eyes, and you have to you're actuating them, or maybe your mind switch. Mind switching is a funny thing too, where the thief goes into the cleric, and the cleric goes into the fighter, and the fighter goes into the rogue, and so now everyone's in different bodies, but you still have your own skills, but your physical abilities are different. That be seems, rut-row lag. Oh, am I lagging? No, 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 no. Tell me not. Okay. I don't see it, but hopefully not. Hopefully that's not a thing. Um, like the dwarf sees what the halfling smells. Yeah, I do like the idea of being in a vast intelligence, and you're, of course, we're doing this symbolically, but like its neural pathways are in complete chaos, like a almost like a Godling, and the PCs have to travel through this essentially dungeon of a brain to order its thoughts so that it's no longer in chaos. Maybe an evil enemy or entity came and threw through its mind into chaos, and it's literally having a physical effect on the physical world, and the PCs have to figure out how to do things. You did cut out at the end. Yeah, you know what? Hangouts does that. I'm thinking about converting over to Zoom or something, but I haven't figured out how to get you guys in and use Zoom and do all that and do it quickly. 6 o'clock in the morning. Connectivity issues. Yeah. Jenny says you could become a copy of yourself without knowing it at first to save the real you from whatever you would have to sacrifice yourself. Could you do it? Ooh. Ooh. So the PCs are playing their copies and they see themselves living maybe living a life that they wish they could, or maybe the PC see themselves asleep and now they are astral projections of themselves and they have to go on these different missions astrally projected outside of themselves in order to fight their way back to their bodies before maybe their bodies die. So you could add a tension timer, so there's like a time limit on it. That would be interesting. Vincent says Zoom is pretty neat. We used it for the last Rosa West Haven game, but it's pretty expensive, at least in my opinion. Yeah, you have to pay for it, and money. So it doesn't grow on trees unless you're in a world where it grows on trees. I'd have to water mine a lot, otherwise it just makes little dollar bills. So anyway, what are some other psionic regions where not only are you copied, but there's you could maybe the realm, you can use the environment against other people and they can use it against you. So if it grow on trees, it would be worthless. Using the dollar bills as toilet paper, I guess, which, okay, yeah. So you could imagine, if you will, like you're fighting the trolls, right? You're in the I don't know, Great Woods or Rocky Valley or something, and the creature's there. All they have to do is think about it, and all of a sudden there's a landslide. Or all you have to think about it, and you start sinking into the earth like quicksand or something. Yeah, in a way, it does. Paper made from trees or fiber. Yeah, so I guess I wipe my ass with $100 bills would be a thing. That would be, if you want to make a statement about society, you could play something like that. If you want to kind of hit it on the nose, you like Soylent Green or Planet of the Apes movies. Yeah, you could do that. Kitty, I hear you, but come on, come out of the woodworks. I'll scratch you. Come here. Anyway, sorry if you guys can hear that. That's the kitty wanting attention. So you could have a world where the PCs are being attacked by the very environment because the sentient or intelligent species around them can actually just think about it and have it affect them. And then the PCs, if they have the power to do it, or they work together, or someone has a great strength of will, they can then have the environment affect someone else. So for example, if you just think about it, you could separate you could mentally make a tunnel through a mountain, or the trees, the thick foliage parts before you as you pass through it, and then it grows back together when you pass on the other end. Or you fall into a great lake and you can just think about it and the air bubble appears around you, or the lake literally parts in half to get you across or something. Yeah, we've gone on to just print more money and freeze the prices. Genius. Yeah. We're deep diving down into the absurdity of what economics is. It has to do with psionics a little bit of the collective belief of what's the value of something, and Yeah, yeah. There is no gold standard here in the States. It's just print more money or destroy more money, whatever the case may be. Um, and the collective belief, which actually this makes me think of, what if the physical world, the PCs are thrown into a realm where they realize that the physical world only exists because everyone believes that's what the rules are. And if they're thrown into a place where they realize that they can almost like they are now thrust behind the scenes of what the real world is. And so in order for them to walk around in this quote unquote real world, they have to believe gravity exists. They have to believe they can breathe air. They have to believe the ground is solid. And when they fail their saves or fail their rolls, every hour or every day or something, that for them it becomes fictional. So gravity becomes fictional. They start to float away. Their objects start floating in the air, and maybe they might float up and disappear. They don't believe they're a physical being because they're just dreamlike, and they start passing through things, and they can't touch anyone or even touch their allies to grab them or something. In Numenera, there's a currency called shins, and it is not defined what it exactly is. It's implied, though, that in some regions, shins are actual secrets. That's awesome. Oh, Mage the Ascension, Prodigyms in Mage the Ascension. I love the whole mage concept that the world that we know is not that it's not real, but it only exists because we believe it, and that you become a mage when you realize that secret, that the world can be what you believe it to be, and overlay it, and that the fact is that in a way a mage isn't a mage. They're just shifting reality around to suit what they think reality should be. I love it. Imagine finding a castle in the middle of a desert, but it's only solid as long as they don't question it being real and not magical. Yeah, imagine it going back and forth too. The castle puts its drawbridge down, and one PC is like, they don't believe in the drawbridge because they don't believe the castle's real, so they can't walk across the drawbridge. They just fall down into the moat. But the other PC that believes it's real just walks across the top, and now you have a question of, does the PC that doesn't believe it tell the PC that does believe it? Because if they try to convince them that it doesn't exist, they now can't open the door or walk through the walls or so. It's like, that would be really strange. And imagine confronting enemies that both believe it's real and believe it's not real, like fey creatures. Maybe they both believe something is real and not real at the exact same time. So a dream realm or quasi-realistic sword could both pass through you and do no harm, and yet is real and can cut you. So if you disbelieve it, you won't get cut by it. But maybe you have no effect if you disbelieve yourself. That'd be really bizarre, but I would love to do something like that. That's really shinnies. Is that, I think the name comes from shinnies? Seeing is believing. Yeah, yeah. Wile E. Coyote syndrome. Yeah, exactly. Wile E. Coyote versus Acme movie, I think is they're thinking about making. But yeah, the Wile E. Coyote syndrome. It's like, yeah, I'm still on solid ground, and I look down. Whoops, uh-oh. You know what I mean? Jenny says Cult. I remember that game. Cult has it the other way around. What you see is a lie, and when you lose your mind, the world opens up to you. Cult is a role-playing game of like dark gothic horror. And it exactly, you could, maybe there's a city that is this dark gothic city, and if you the fear is that your eyes will open to see the horrors around you, and once you see it, it's like you can't go back. So the people who keep their head down and don't believe in the horrors are actually safer than the PCs who may start to believe in the horrors, and they are attacked, and physically can be harmed by it. But the people who don't believe it, they keep their head down. They don't believe in the horrors. They just keep to themselves. They cross themselves. They keep walking around. They can literally walk through the horrors, but the PCs are the ones that are attacked by it, until they don't believe it. And then, of course, you have the problem of one PC doesn't believe in the horrors, and they can't help their fellow PCs who are fighting them because I don't see it, I don't believe it, even though I see the scars appearing on top of you. That's strange. Why are you hitting yourself? Stop hitting yourself. Vincent said, I had something like this in a dream sequence in Werewolf, the Apocalypse. I was going over a bridge, but when I bent down to touch it, it vanished. Yeah. Alex, he says, for some reason, I never heard of this cult. Cult is I want to say late 80s, early 90s RPG. Cult following. I mean, it was called Cult, of course, but yeah, it had a cult following. It was people who had it swore by it. It was popular, but like most things, like early 90s role-playing games, there were a ton of them that were all over the place. And so there were a ton of role-playing games that were like scattershot, and some made it. For example, there's a role-playing game I have called Everway. It was a diceless role-playing game made by Robin Laws? I can't remember, but anyway, I'm not going to look it up. But Everway was a diceless role-playing game that was excellently made. I mean, it was a great. It used tarot cards for its. I got some of the cards right here, sitting in front of me. I don't know why I still have these things. Yeah. Vincent says. Okay, so Vincent says it is from Sweden, and they had something like a satanic panic in Sweden at the time, infused by this game. Yeah, satanic panic ruined a lot of games and people's role playing journey. He says, it started around the mid '90s, 2E time. It sure did. Yeah, a lot of during that time there were a ton of. I guess you could call it experimental because we didn't have such a large RPG community as we did now. And Vincent says, because they implied things about the Vatican and religion, look up Red Moon role playing. They made a whole campaign for it. Cool. But yeah, there was these are the back of these Everway cards, and they were like tarot cards they're upside down. Tarot cards were used for describing how you could succeed and fail or stuff, and it didn't succeed. It was ahead of its time. I think today it would be great. At the time, it didn't work. But those kind of games were out there. And so anyway, guys, yeah, distractions, love it. Psionically, I'm being pulled into another direction. No, anyway, just want to come up with some ideas on how psionics could affect the environment, because that's a third pillar thing too, and having that overlay, and being able to give your players some other kinds of difficulties, challenges, and you can overlay that with some physical things going on too. Especially if you quote unquote don't want to split the party, but you want to give certain people spotlights. So the physical characters are fighting enemies while the more cerebral characters are figuring their way around something. Could be very interesting. Maybe the cerebral characters are able to disbelieve / believe, you know what I mean? They're in between this dream realm where if they disbelieve the creature, they can actually pass through the creatures to maybe unlock a puzzle while the physical characters are fighting the creature, and such. Yeah. Anyway, Augustus Den says, in Mage, the Umbra is a realm entirely made of people's thoughts and beliefs. The Near Umbra is like a mirror realm with idealized versions of things. In the Far Umbra, abstract ideas were personalized. Yeah, you could have the surface is the actuality, and then as you get deeper into it, it becomes the impossibility realm, and things just become stranger and stranger as it starts to twist. And what could a really strange puzzle could be the twisting and changing of the shape of even the PC's bodies. Maybe the PC's bodies fall apart into pieces. They become an ooze. They turn to stone. They just become ghost-like and pass through everything. They change shape from one animal to another randomly. They become plant life or a tree randomly. Maybe they start to change based on their personality or the faction that they are aligned with or their class or any kind of strange thing. Maybe they change size randomly from shrinking down to growing. It could be the strange idea of the brainy museums where you see the hallway is starting to focus down, it's smaller, but really when you walk down the hallway, it's just the optical illusion, so you get bigger. Or the person walks down the hallway and gets smaller, but then when they return, they actually only walk 10 feet away, but now they're just really tiny. Or you hold, I said before, you hold your fingers out as a kid and you could always like crush little small things, but really you're holding your fingers out and that thing that's far away, you're actually like holding in now is real tiny and is only an inch tall in your fingertips. That'd be really strange and odd and bizarre and stuff. Yeah, so using, maybe making like random tables, die rolls, having options that the players have to pick and choose based on their own character's introspection. So everyone gets quote unquote punished the same way. They're just picking from random tables to become these things or change or picking up the arm that fell off of one of your PCs while another PC turned into glass and their body is see-through. But maybe the fact that their arms and legs keep falling off and their head and their eyeballs fall out, maybe you have to solve the puzzle by sticking their arm down into a narrow opening to touch something. Or the PC with the sword, they're carrying, one PC is strapped the arm onto their back, but the PC can use their arm to fight with the sword while the arm is strapped onto the back of the mage as the mage casts a spell or something. Or you can drop your eyeball into put it up on a ledge so that one eyeball can see the whole area like a spy, and their other eyeballs held in their pocket, and they can roll their eyeball down the hallway to see what's coming around the corner. Or the PC that changes into glass or crystal, if they stand still, they can seem like they're invisible, but they're also very vulnerable to being shattered by attacks or something. You could have something, you could play with those things too, where you're giving boons and banes to your PCs based on this really strange, chaotic realm. Yeah, all those things. So I think my voice is starting to give out. I apologize for that, guys. I'm going to take one more sip. I apologize for doing this. Very unprofessional of me. Half and half. Anyway, thanks, guys, for, I don't know, just damn it, just coming with like the creative powerhouses that you guys are. Jenny says, how about Psionics in realistic settings? Oh, sorry, Jenny, and I don't mean to bust your bubble. We talked about that earlier in the week. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. We did that on Monster Monday. We talked about the metagaming of like giving energy or synergy on Tips and Tricks Tuesday, on World Building Wednesday. We talked about building like using Psionics to change or build the world. We came up with a ton of psionic settings you could use. So this is going on. So I'm not putting you down about using psionics in realistic settings. I'm saying that we did talk about it in the past. We're going to talk about it in the future. This was brought up by Baron Contrell in a Facebook post or something. It was like, hey, why don't you talk about it? And I was like, F that. I'm not going to talk about it once. I'm going to talk about it all week. So there, in your face. Glass could literally be invisible in water. Yeah, absolutely. Like you could quote unquote punish your players until they realize like the punishment isn't punishment. It's actually a tool. I would be careful about it though, because you don't want one. I brought it up, but you don't want one answer to solve one issue. You know what I mean? Like you don't want it to be aha, you didn't figure out that if you turned into crystal, you could figure this thing out, blah blah. Like you don't want to do that. You want to really make the you want to create problems and challenges, but not solutions. You want the PCs to come up with solutions, and you may have some in your own head, but I would let the PCs come up with a way to solve their own problems. Be it um, uh, suddenly I step on that glass. That's the sting. Yeah. So it could be that maybe the players, the PCs, maybe grab something or pick something up in this weird chaotic realm, and they become that thing. And if they become that thing, they could use that to their advantage. And maybe they have to. It's a struggle because they're human beings, so they have to hold on to their mind to go from being glass to being ooze to being solid or whatever to maneuver around this chaotic realm. So maybe the fighter characters like got a rock in their pocket, and when they grab onto it, they can't move, but they become completely invulnerable. Maybe they turn into steel or adamantite or something, and boom, something hits them and they're completely invulnerable. But now they can't move, and they have to use their mind to resist being locked in there eternally, to shift out of it to maybe become something else. Maybe someone grabs some liquid into a bottle, and so they pour the liquid out or drink the liquid or pour it on their skin or dunk their hand into a basin or something. When they rub it on their skin, now they become liquid-like in their maneuvering or something, or whatever, or they breathe in a gas and they become gaseous or something. Again, top of the head, throwing stuff out there. But I'm literally winding it down now because it takes me about 20 times to wind things down. So again, this is my third or fourth time winding it down. We're going to take it easy. We still got tomorrow. We got Future Friday. We're going to talk about psionics in the future world. Of course, we're going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about a ton of other sci-fi realms, how psionics, which psionics and futurism and science fiction always goes together. I know some people aren't really into the sci-fi thing. That's why I have Future Fridays on Friday. But if you're into it, you just want some ideas, great, come into it. By the way, you already have to know this, but for those who don't know, I'm a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. I and hoping to become the nexus for great things such as Power Up Gamers, Darius Jana, RP Gamer, check them out. Vince and I do some cipher system building. Vince has his own creation, so check those videos out on this channel. Check out Critical Hit Publishing, of which I write for. My baby is the cinematic environs. There's 9 books so far. Each book describes the environment, and then you can use that to overlay that in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It just gives you a ton of ideas to use the environment as your puzzles, your traps, your layers, your obstacles, your hazards, and overlay that so you can come up with some really great, to me, movie entertainment fun where you're having fights to get rid of those boring, we're fighting orcs in the woods. It's like, no, just don't have a fight in the woods, have it in the torrential rain or in fog or in ships or underground and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, using Sonic's Starfinder. Yep, Starfinder, Eclipse Phase, Shadowrun, D20 Future. Thanks, Deadman. And Alex C. EP. Janny says EP is very hard. I love Eclipse Phase. I got a ton of videos and a playlist just on Eclipse Phase, and actually all the Future Friday videos are under the Eclipse Phase playlist. We talk about you guys, meaning we, chat and everything. We talk about Eclipse Phase and all the permutations thereof, both the gaming portion of it, the mechanics portion of it, which is about 15 to 20%, and then 80% the actual setting. Great read, but damn hard to run. I agree with you. Eclipse Phase is one of those like beautiful problems, which is one of my first videos I did about Eclipse Phase having beautiful problems, really having to think outside the box in terms of running the game, despite the fact that it is brilliantly designed. So on the D20th and D6 and D20th of each month. Got to have a D6 because it's on the D6 because that's a classic die, and on the D20th because you have to have a critical roll. We have a new release. They're $1.50 on drive-through, little PDFs for adventures and things, just to keep us out there. You guys can see what it is. Our very first one, The Bridge of Death, is pay what you want. Essentially, it's free. You can check that out to see if it's something that you would like. Plus, there's plenty of other things. Alex, Rob, and I doing things. So, guys, the Serenity RPG. Yeah, Serenity. Oh, man, there's so many others. Sci-fi, Stars Without Number, White Star, I believe, is one. Traveler. Damn, of course, Star Trek, Star Wars, all the permutations of Star Wars, the D6 Star Wars, D20 Star Wars, Fantasy Flight Star Wars. There's a ton of them. So anyway, guys, I am going to cut out now. I'm going to let you guys go on. Of course, we have the Discord channel where you can continue all the discussions if you guys want to talk about things. Check out Infinite Roleplay, who for the life of me I cannot figure out how he has a live stream doing art, talking to people, designing Saturday morning tabletop, Uncharted Worlds. He's doing Saturday morning tabletop game. Check him out. There's a ton of people in and around our creative conclave. So check those out. And of course, they're every other Sunday, twice a month, we have a creators conclave with me and Darius Jana. Maybe one of these days we'll start inviting other content creators on. Although again, in the States, I get up hella early, so that's a drawback for me. But overseas, great opportunity for people to get involved in it. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm DBJ. Thanks for being on RPG with DBJ. And I am out. Have a very great morning, evening, and afternoon.